am not going to stand between you all and these awesome speakers and panelists, so I will go ahead and bring up Pastor Walter Ellis to do the prayer, and followed by him will be our future congressman from the District 2 of Alabama, Shamori Figures. Pastor Ellis.
Good afternoon. God bless you. Shall we bow our heads to pray? God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us safely along the way, we come today, God, in your presence and before angels, asking that you will be visible and present in this discussion today as we discuss matters that will affect all of us today and years to come. We come, God, to help our brother cross the line in District 2. Thank you for all of those who have come to support him, all of those who are in the audience today. We pray now for your peace in the midst of all the turmoil and all of the clamor that's going on. Help us to know that your strength is made perfect when we are weak. We ask these blessings now in the most powerful and prolific name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus the Christ. And all of God's people agreed by saying together, amen.
Shamori Figures, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you, Pastor Ellis.
Good afternoon. No, please sit down. Please sit. Don't clap for me, because you got plenty of stars up here to clap for other than me. But thank you, guys. How's everybody doing? That don't sound too good. I said, how's everybody doing? All right. Well, look, we are almost there. We are standing at the proverbial foot of the bridge, Congresswoman Sewell, of getting across this effort, or where it started. From where it started with people like Evan Milligan and Kadita Stone and Bobby Singleton and Terry Sewell and others. Not just this lawsuit, but the efforts that got us the ability to even file this lawsuit. Since I've got in this race, I've not made any reservations, not had any reservations about saying that I personally think that Montgomery is the most important city in America in the 20th century. And that's not because I'm standing in Montgomery begging for votes. That's because I know, as the world knows, that the reason I'm able to run for this seat is because of Montgomery. And not just Montgomery, it's Selma, it's Birmingham, but we know that Montgomery and Marion, there's Alabama, how about that? But what we know is that if there wasn't a Montgomery, Alabama, there would not be a civil rights movement. If there was not a civil rights movement, there is no Voting Rights Act. If there is no Voting Rights Act, there is no lawsuit. If there is no lawsuit, there is no newly redrawn District 2. If there is no newly redrawn District 2, there is no Shamori Figures standing on this stage 10 days out from an election where we have an opportunity for the first time in the history of this state to send a second African American to represent this state in Washington, D.C. And when you connect all of those dots, they connect back to a city in central Alabama called Montgomery. And it is because of Montgomery that not only am I here, but you'll hear from Congresswoman Sewell and Congresswoman Crockett, who both represent districts that were born out of the Voting Rights Act. So none of us would be here without the efforts of the people who put so much on the line right here in Montgomery, Alabama. But we know that this district is certainly bigger than Montgomery. It goes down to my hometown of Mobile, and there are 11 other counties that make up this district. And we know the challenges in this district are real. We know the challenges in this district are heartbreaking in some respects, because we come from this new District 2. It's primarily rural. 11 counties, 12 counties in this district lost population last year. When I got in this race, of the 13 counties in this district, you sit Mobile and Montgomery to the side because they're a little bit bigger. And those 11 other counties, 2 of them already didn't have a hospital. Macon County, Washington County. That leaves 9 counties. Across those 9 counties, just since we've been in this race in the last year, 4 hospitals have closed. And so it's bigger than just healthcare that we're talking about here. Because when we talk about economic opportunities and improving future possibilities and creating environments where we want our children to return to and bring their talents home to this district, you got to be able to recruit businesses. And Nick Saban cannot close a recruiting pitch that begins with, "We don't have a hospital." So it's real here. We have to expand Medicaid in this state. And Congresswoman Sewell and Congresswoman Crockett will again be on the front lines of doing that, because Texas hadn't expanded it either. And we know, if you've heard me speak before, you've heard me say this. How many of you were born in the state of Alabama? Well, just by virtue of being born here, you're expected to live the shortest life of anybody else born anywhere in the United States, with the exception of 2 other states, and we can all guess one: Mississippi and West Virginia. But the truth is, we only outlive them. We're only expected to outlive them by just mere decimal points. So we're talking just a few weeks. So we're talking about, just by virtue of being born here in the state of Alabama, you're expected to live the shortest life of anybody born anywhere in the country. And we know that boils down to hospitals. We know that boils down to health insurance. We know that boils down to Medicaid. We know that boils down to Medicare. Because we know too many of us have gone for far too long without having that type of access. And so we need it here. And that's just one of the critical things that's on the ballot this go around. We got school systems here that are being divested in. And I don't care how you feel about public versus private versus charter. There's a simple mathematical fact that I will illustrate like this. How many people here graduated from public school? Nearly 90% of the people in Alabama can say the same thing. 85% of the people in this country can say the same thing. So regardless of how you feel about public versus private versus charter, there's a simple reality, is that our public education system is the largest workforce development program that we have. And so we cannot say that we are serious about enhancing economic opportunities, especially in underserved communities, if we're taking efforts to divest from our largest workforce development program. So we're going to push. We're going to push to make sure that we are, again, treating teachers and school support personnel like they are what they are, which is the single most important profession in this country. And so, look, I got in this race because this district is home for me. It's where I was born. It's where I was raised. It's where I grew up. It's where I was educated, a product of public schools myself. This is the place that prepared me to go off. If I did not grow up in Alabama, just like Congresswoman Sewell, we would not have the perspective of the world that we have. Because you learn very early on when you grow up here, whether you're black or white, the role that federal government has had to play in making this state in particular do right by people. And that's what motivated me to want to follow in the path of my father, and follow in the path of my mother, and follow in the path of Hank Sanders and Faya, and follow in the path of Congresswoman Terry Sewell, and follow in the paths of the Fred Grays and the Ralph Abernathys of this world. Because we know that the victories that we have had in this state, especially if your skin complexion is a certain shade, have come from federal government doing what's right by people. And so I want to be part of that fight. And we are close to being able to do it. It's getting heated. It's getting nasty. It's getting dirty. I'm sure some of you have seen the commercials. I'm sure some of you have received the mailers. But we're going to keep our eye focused. We're going to keep the main thing. Because we got an opportunity here to put a cherry on top of the work that started 70 years ago in places like Montgomery, Alabama. And so we will not be going backwards. We will be going forward. And with you guys' support on November the 5th, we will get there. So thank you. I know you guys didn't really come to see me. So I'm going to turn it back over to Tiffany, who will introduce the true stars of this show. But while I do have the mic, I do want to thank Congresswoman Terry Sewell, Congresswoman Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, my wife, Dr. Kalisha Figures, and your First Lady here in Montgomery, attorney and investment banker Tamika Reed, for being here and for lending your voice and support to this. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. And while our panelists come up, I just want to take a moment to recognize any other elected officials that we have. I see Representative Hall, I see Senator Singleton. I know I saw Judge McCord. Don't kill me from Selma. Senator Rob Stewart, that's correct, that's right, forgive me. Councilman Calhoun is here. Thank you. We want to give you all a hand and thank you all for coming. We got school board member Cassandra Brown in the building. Thank you all. And as you all know, when women lead, change follows. And I sit among giants up here, and my first ask of them is going to be to introduce themselves to you as we begin this panel discussion. So I will start with First Lady Reed.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Montgomery. Again, I am Tamika Reed. I am an attorney and an investment banker here in Montgomery. I am a very, very proud HBCU alum from Xavier University in New Orleans. I practice law, education, and employment law here in Montgomery at the Alabama Education Association for 12 years. And then during the pandemic, I decided to make a career change to public finance. And little did I know when I did that I would be the first female investment banker that deals specifically with municipal bonds in the state of Alabama. And I didn't say the first black female, I was the first female. So, and also, my husband is the mayor, so.
Thank you. And then we will hear from Dr. Kalisha Figures, the better half of our future congressman.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kalisha DeSuze Figures. I am Shamari's wife, but what many of you might not know is that I've spent much of my career working in federal policy around women's rights and gender policy specifically. So I advised President Obama on his Council on Women and Girls a little over a decade ago, and more recently worked at the top of the Biden-Harris administration as a special assistant to the president working for the Gender Policy Council. So everything from girls' education, girls in STEM, to thinking about women's economic security, our maternal health crisis, I have covered, and I founded and own a political and policy consulting firm called KDF Strategies, and we work with national nonprofits and funders who are doing work to advance gender and racial equity.
Thank you, that's amazing. Congresswoman Sewell.
I'm Congresswoman Terry Sewell, and I proudly represent Alabama's 7th District, which currently includes the historic city of Montgomery, Birmingham, Selma, Marion, the Black Belt. I want to say that it's been an honor of a lifetime to represent Alabama's 7th District, but it's high time that we get more representation, fairer representation in Alabama, in Congress. So I am thrilled. I didn't have to be bludgeoned on a bridge. I just had to give up Montgomery County for progress. And progress we will have if you go to the polls. This is an opportunity district. It's not a certainty. We have to earn it with every vote. And I hope that you will go and vote, vote, vote. I'm honored to be one of the first women, along with Martha Welby, ever elected to Congress from Alabama. And we as women could not have done it without great, amazing foot soldiers, men and women, black and white, that made the ultimate sacrifice. And as Shamari so rightfully said, we know who we are and whose we are. And we also know that progress is elusive, and every generation has to fight to hold on to the progress that we've already made and try to advance it. Otherwise, old battles can become new again, and we see that.
Thank you. Last but certainly not least, we will welcome our guest from Texas, Representative Jasmine Crockett.
Thanks so much. I'm gonna keep it short because being the child of a preacher, plus being a lawyer, plus being a politician, technically I can talk. But I want to make sure that we get down to the nitty gritty because we have a lot of issues that we need to discuss. For those of you who don't know who I am actually a freshman in the U.S. House. I proudly represent from Texas 30th Congressional District, which is anchored in Dallas County, Texas. And as Shamari said in his opening remarks, I am a product of Section 2 Voting Rights Act. That is my district. It is a Section 2 district. And yeah. And y'all can see that my representation looks a little different coming out of 2. But nevertheless, what I wanted to say is that I'm a recovering attorney. I actually miss the courtroom every single day. And so what you see in viral clips is usually a little bit of what used to happen in court. I used to have a little bit more time to lay out my case. But I can tell you that this is not work that I sought out, and honestly, I feel like I'm constantly kicking and screaming and banging my head against the wall, asking exactly why are we doing this again? And then I show up in communities like this, and I'm reminded of what public service is supposed to be. And I'm reminded how important it is for people that have historically felt as if they did not have representation, or as if they were not heard, or as if their issues were not put out front. And then I'm reminded of, honestly, just the honor that I have to be able to serve. And so that is why I'm in Congress. I am looking for the next generation of leaders, though, so y'all step right on up. Because I'll be happy to go back to a little bit more of a quieter life and go back to the courtroom. But thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So, we continue to hear it, that this is the most critical election of our lifetime. So can we contextualize that as to why, and define the moment we're in and why it is so critical to get our communities engaged? So I'm gonna start with First Lady Reed and Dr. Figures. What are you seeing in this new District 2 from Mobile to Montgomery?
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and start it off. What I see most is the energy and the excitement that we have here to be able to say that we are supporting a black female for presidency. But I'm gonna also say that I see a lot of frustration, and I have a lot of frustration within myself, that we're actually at a place where we're defending the competency of a woman who is phenomenal in and of itself, and that who puts forth everything that any black female would strive to be. We are at the stage where we're having to defend that against a convicted felon, and that it's just frustrating that when you look at how close the polls are, that this is a situation where what should be a no-brainer is actually a factor. And I think that stirs up energy, and that stirs up the pride that we have as women. But to say that we're having to defend this over in this circumstance, in this situation, is really just annoying.
So I will build from that in saying, you know this is a critical election by just listening to the noise that is being thrown out there. If you see the mailers or the TV ads just here in District 2, you take a look across the country. It's the same thing that presidents, it's the same thing that Senate and House races are doing across this country, because they are trying to distract us from the issues, healthcare, economic security, housing, education. They're trying to distract us from those issues. So they are throwing mud, and they are throwing harmful rhetoric out there. They are going to what they have always leaned on, which is fear tactics and, rhetoric that tries to separate people, it is critical because they are trying to take your eyes off of the prize. And if they were in a winning stand, they would not be putting all this effort and putting all this noise out into the atmosphere. So I think that is the definition. That's how we know how critically important this race is, just by the noise that we hear out there.
That's absolutely true. Congresswoman Sewell, you played a unique role in the process in the creation of the newly drawn district. Can you tell us why this election is so critical in Alabama?
Well, I think on the ballot is our democracy. Our very democracy is on the ballot. I was one of those trapped members of Congress on January 6th in the balcony of the Capitol. 30 of us were still upstairs in the gallery when they took Vice President Pence and Pelosi and others down below out. And for 1 hour, we heard the vile, it wasn't rhetoric. These people were angry, screaming mob. And we heard the fire that killed one person. And we heard banging on that door. And it's no doubt in my mind that if we had let them come into that building, we would have been harmed. I also think, no doubt in my mind, that if it had been Black Lives Matter on the outside, they would have never gotten on the inside.
Never. Not even close.
So, democracy is truly a community, a team sport, and all of us have a role to play. And some of us are elected officials, but all of us are citizens of this great state and this great country, and we can only exercise our voice if we exercise our vote. And so for me, when I think about why this is so consequential, it's consequential because I don't know about you, but I'm not going back. I am not going back. I'm moving forward. I'm moving forward with a new generation of leadership. I'm moving forward with an opportunity here in Alabama to have a second district that has a Democrat that looks like me. I am moving forward. And so when I think about Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act and how we got here, I am grateful that the justices of the Supreme Court did the right thing. In fact, I was sure they weren't going to do the right thing. But what I knew for a fact is the people in this district gave us the Voting Rights Act. The people of this state also gave us the Shelby versus Holder decision. And when I was sitting in a room with Eric Holder and Barack Obama and all of the southern states that only had one Democrat who was an African American, and there were 4 of us, and they said, who among you will raise your hand to be the test case? And there was silence. I knew that the girl from Selma needed to be that person. Now, mama didn't raise no fool, so I looked over at Barack Obama and I said, I have three requests. First, if I'm in trouble, you are going door to door to door throughout my district. And I looked at Eric Holder and I said, if I need some money, you will raise me millions of dollars. And the second thing I said is, I don't want to lose any more of my district than I have to. I think that my district is an amazing district. And it is the district that brought us the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. But I want the folks of Montgomery to know that I can think of no better person to help represent Montgomery. You notice I said help represent Montgomery because I will always represent Montgomery with him. It's nice to have 2 folks in Congress fighting on your behalf, and I want you to know that Shamari Figures will do just that. And so I just want you all to know that progress only happens when we're willing to sacrifice. That's just the bottom line. And so I really want you all to know that this opportunity district was about fairness. African Americans make up 27% of the voting population in Alabama. There are 7 seats in Congress, 7 House seats, only 1 House seat in which an African American could actually win. And so that's 14% representation. That is unfair. Let's just say that. It's unfair. So I know that my Republican colleagues are working double time to keep this seat, but it is not theirs to keep. It is ours to win. It's ours to win because the sacrifices that were made in this district, we have an opportunity, but that opportunity can only be reality if you guys go and vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Congresswoman Crockett, you've spent the past few years in Washington, and so you've seen the function, or we should probably say dysfunction, up close. So why is this election critical from your standpoint?
Let me count the ways. It's interesting because some of you may or may not know that I'm a national co-chair for the Harris Walls campaign. And last time I checked, Alabama is not a battleground, but this seat is. And if I'm gonna be just completely real with y'all, because, I feel like when I explain to people how the process works, then they get on the right side of history. But there's a lot of people that don't understand how this process works. Right now, we have Vice President Harris that is going out there. She is offering an aggressive agenda that will make sure that the middle class finally has some of the opportunities that they seek, whether it's economic opportunities, whether it's housing opportunities, whether it's educational opportunities. She is working overtime. There are those that say, oh, well, she ain't done enough interviews. Next thing you know, she doing 50,000 interviews. Oh, well, she don't have this agenda. Next thing you know, she lays it down. But as it's already been stated a number of times, it's been stated a number of ways. We got one candidate that's allowed to be lawless while the other one has to be flawless. We understand that they're not taking the same test. One has the remedial test and has extra time and all of the extra things, whereas she's taking the AP test. And unfortunately, this is only exemplary of what we are struggling with in this country right now. For those that want to go after diversity, equity, and inclusion and try to pretend as if because somebody has a little bit more melanin or because someone is a woman, that somehow they are not qualified. They are trying to say, well, never mind, we don't want to talk about the history that was made, and we don't want to talk about the sacrifices of those right here in Alabama. They are trying to erase as much as they can, not to mention decency is out the window for one team. I can't really tell you all the things that are on the line. All I can say is it's everything. And so not only do I need my vice president to become my president, but I need her to be able to effectuate whatever agenda she went out there saying she was trying to effectuate. And at the end of the day, that means she's got to have help in the House as well as the Senate. So, Alabama, a lot of people will try to pretend as if you don't matter, but you do. Right here in Alabama, too. I need him. As I say oftentimes, as I got my good sister on the front row with her B6 shirt, on the front row. I need better coworkers. I need people that actually want to work for the people. Right now, this has been the most unproductive Congress in the history of Congresses.
And I need another Democrat in the Alabama delegation. It's been lonely over in Washington. And while I've been holding it down, I can tell you that Shamari will be an added plus, which is why you have the future Speaker of the House, Hakeem Jeffries, coming here this week as well.
That's exactly right. I'll leave it there in that we do need Hakeem Jeffries, but Alabama, don't let anybody take your power. Too many fought for you to have this power. And there are so many that are upset that a Jasmine Crockett ever existed. But I'm gonna tell you that I feel the power of the ancestors every time I'm sitting in a hearing and they try to play with me. There is no way that I can walk the halls, and Terry knows this, and I've explained this earlier, because I like to break down exactly what it means to still have Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, at least for now, because they have deleted so much of the Voting Rights Act. And the Voting Rights Act was signed into law by a Texan. Listen, Texas and Alabama used to get a few things right. Right now, I don't know that we're getting too much right, but nevertheless, what does that mean? Voting Rights Act came about in 1965. And so we have these Section 2 seats. And while not every single black woman that's ever walked into Congress comes from a Section 2 seat, I am still only the 55th black woman to ever swear into Congress.
Say that again.
So that's why I'm trying to tell y'all, like, this seat is your seat. I'm not even asking you to like read the whole opinion. They decided that there was not representation that could be chosen by black folk. So therefore, the question is, are y'all gonna show up and make your voices heard? That's it. We gotta make sure he's there, because literally the courts finally did something right. This Supreme Court is on the ballot as well. So when you talk about the things at stake, and the final point that I'll make is that it's so interesting that there's this rich history that provided for rights coming right out of Alabama, and then the same very state is the one that started to turn things around. I know something about that, because women's rights are on the ballot.
Yes.
Roe v. Wade is a case that came out of my district in Dallas, Texas. And all of a sudden, Texas is leading the charge to make sure that we lose all of our rights as women in this country. So do y'all's part.
Thank you. And that's a good segue with regards to the state of women and what's on the line for women in this election, from child care to caregiving, reproductive rights, and maternal health, and IVF. So Congresswoman Sewell, let's start with you. What's the state of women in Alabama, and what issues are most pressing?
Well, I think that all of our issues are pressing, and I also think that they're not just women issues, okay? They're all of our issues. They really are. Even women's issues are all of our issues, because we all come from a what? Woman. And so I think that what's scary about our state is that we don't have a clinic anywhere in the state of Alabama where reproductive rights are honored fully. And this is about women's health care. How many stories have you heard about people carrying children that have problems, that won't live beyond the womb, having to leave our state just to go across to another state to get care? It's unacceptable, everyone. It's unacceptable. And I don't have to relitigate this, because if you saw Michelle Robinson Obama last night, she done told all y'all about why women's reproductive rights are important. But I also want folks to realize that we live in a society that is still paternalistic and misogynistic. It's sad to say. But I also know that progress can only be made if we, the people, make that progress. Jasmine and I were talking over lunch. I mean, of the barriers, black and being a woman, which is a bigger barrier to being in electoral politics? 30 years ago, I interviewed Shirley Chisholm, and she said, unequivocally, being a woman. And Jasmine and I will say, 30 years later, today, being a woman. We have to get over that. And we as women need to help each other, not hurt each other. Okay? Now, I'm not asking you to vote for Kamala Harris because she's a woman. I'm asking you to vote for her because I think she is the best candidate. She is the one at this anointed hour who could totally take us to the next level and not backwards. She's a unifier. She's not looking to bring people down. She's not looking to get a list of people that they can, once she gets in the White House, that she's gonna, go after. She's looking to bring us all joy, to make us all feel proud to be Americans, and to make all of us, whether you vote for her or not, give all of us a chance So I'm not saying that we don't have particular issues that are definitely women's issues. I am saying that on this ballot, everyone has an issue that's on the ballot. Whether you care about climate change, whether you care about education, whether you care about lowering costs, whatever your issue is, it's on the ballot because our vote is fundamental to every other right. I'm going to repeat that. Our vote is fundamental to every other right that we want. Okay? And I just want to say this because when I say this is our seat, I do mean that. I don't mean that it's just a black seat or a Democratic seat. I'm saying it's an Alabama seat and an opportunity for us to be fair. So whether you're black or white, I'm telling you that Shamari is the best candidate, and I'm telling you that he's the one who can take Alabama. He will work with our colleagues just like I will work with our colleagues. We may not agree on everything, but all of us agree that our job is to try to make Alabama to be the best Alabama it can be. And that means being inclusive. It means being inclusive. So I'm asking my white friends to definitely spread the word that this seat is an Alabama seat and an opportunity for Alabama to show that we actually believe in fairness. Help me. Help a sister.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna keep it short and try to make this really plain. The fight for reproductive access is a fight for all of us. And I honestly don't really care if you are pro-choice, pro-life, or how you want to classify yourself. If you believe in who we are supposed to be in this country, if you believe in freedom, then you must support this movement. Not may, you must support this movement. Because if you think that there is a freedom that you enjoy right now that will not be attacked, you are wrong. We are setting the precedence that it's okay to go after one group. And what we've seen out of the Supreme Court is that they are deciding that they are going after everyone. So let me be clear, you don't have to be pro-choice. You can do whatever you want to with your uterus or the fact that you don't even have one. We're not asking you to agree. That is not what this is about. And to be clear, when we start talking about the fact that this is an all of us issue besides the fact that everybody came from a woman, let me tell you a quick story, and then I'm going to be done so we can hear from the other panelists. I had one of my constituents come to me during CBC week, and I always allow them an opportunity just to kind of convene with me. And she owns a nonprofit organization that helps and supports single women that are with child or already have children and are struggling. And they do wraparound services. And she started to tell me about the crazy increase that she's had for support services. But something I had never considered and never thought about was this particular story. She said, well, I want you to talk to me about housing. And I said, well, we're not about to get anything done, because I'm very honest with my constituents. I'm like, we're not getting anything done. Can you tell that we can barely keep the lights on? Like, holla at me next term, let's get a Speaker Jeffries, let's get a good, I was like, we're not doing nothing right now. So she says, okay. She said, well, let me tell you what I'm faced with right now. She had a 48-year-old unhoused woman who was with child. Let me repeat that, 48, unhoused, and with child. Now you start talking about the healthcare system and what that means on our healthcare system. You start talking about the burden of, she was high risk on top of high risk on top of high risk. And while I'm not gonna say she was ever happy about being unhoused, she absolutely was like, there's no way I can bring a child into this world and be unhoused. And so we are already in a housing crisis in this country. No matter who you are, the cost of housing is high because the demand is high, yet we don't have enough supply. So with that, I don't really care how you feel about abortion. Let me just tell you, it's a lot of people that are getting pregnant that are like, well, you know what? It may be things that I would do if it's just me on my own. But I can't bring a child into this world and not try to do something more. So that's yet more people that are in need of housing, more people that may not be able to go live with their loved ones. Let me tell you, this is a crisis for all of us, whether it's on our healthcare system, whether it's on our healthcare providers, whether it's on our housing system, whether we're talking about resources that these people are going to need, because now you're taking them out of their education or you're taking them out of the workforce because the cost of childcare is too high. Let me tell you something. Don't let people try to pitch you against the Bible and try to tell you that you're not a good Christian because you want to mind your own business and let people have the freedom that they deserve in this country. This is all of us. And the biggest threat, one of the other biggest threats that we have is that we have a divider that is trying to be the divider in chief. We need to be united because we know that united we stand and divided we absolutely.
Y'all see how she just dropped that mic down right there? Attorney Reed and Dr. Figures, can you all give us some insight on women and issues both in Montgomery and throughout the district, Dr. Figures, as you have traveled with Shamori?
I couldn't agree more. It doesn't matter how you feel about the issue of abortion. I'm sure everyone would agree that a woman right across the border, the state's border in Georgia, who is a mother, a young mother, who took an abortion pill and needed care after that abortion pill, who showed up at a hospital and was refused that care because of the state laws, because of the laws in Georgia, should be alive today. I'm sure we can all agree on that point. So there's a ripple effect, and I worked a lot during my time in the White House on a maternal health crisis. And when we talk about Alabama and having some of the most restrictive reproductive rights laws across the country, that mirrors Alabama also having the worst, one of the worst, third, fourth worst maternal mortality rates across the country. So when we're traveling this district, and Shamari talks a ton about healthcare, I think about hearing from women, pregnant women in Monroe County, who when their water breaks or when they have a scare, they have to travel over an hour to Mobile to get care. I have 3 times given birth. It is scary. On face value, if you are healthy and well, it is scary. So to not have access to that care, to have to drive 60, 90 minutes in labor to get care, these are the issues we're talking about when we talk about the state of women, right, in Alabama and in this district. And I know we've touched a lot around reproductive rights. I think the other thing that I would mention that is so important and has so much to do with thinking about economic issues is the role that women play caring for our families and for our communities. Yeah. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed what we have known to be true for a very long time, that women shoulder a caregiving burden in their families. We talk a lot about that sandwich generation, women who have children and have parents that they're also caring for. And what I've seen across this district is extra layers to that sandwich. Because we know in families and households across this district, it's just not your mom and your children, it's your grandmama who's still alive. We might have 4 or 5 generations who are still living. And there are women who are trying to be in the labor force, earn decently for their families, worry about the cost of childcare, worry about a parent who has Alzheimer's and what that cost of that home care will be, wanting to keep that person home. And so when we talk about the policies that Kamala Harris is actually putting forward, investing in our child care system, investing in home care, trying to close gender wage gaps that have existed for far too long, that are double-pronged for Black women and women of color across the country, that's the state of women, right? But you don't, when we travel this district, you don't hear women just picking apart what policies look different for them as women. They are talking about the policies that impact their families. They are talking about taxes. They are talking about gun violence. They are talking about the fact that kids in 5th grade are reading at a 2nd grade level. Women are such a linchpin in every household, in every community, and so we hear the issues that are just really resonating across the district.
Well, I'm going to ditto everything you just said, and of course everything that was said previously. But I am going to piggyback a little bit on the wage issue. That's an extreme issue when you were talking about in Alabama, when you're talking about women who have to bear the burden of being the caregiver, being the everything, the executive director of the household is what I like to call it in my household. Okay, but when somebody is sick, I'm the one who has to call into work and say, hey, I have to stay home with my son, or I have to go to my son's school for this or for that. But there is a distinct difference between when women take off and the perception that is perceived because of that and when men do it, okay? And on top of you having to feel like you're in some kind of way failing at your job, you're not even getting paid the same as your counterparts who are doing the same thing that don't have to worry about whether somebody is being cared for at home, or if you have a meeting to go to that you have to make sure somebody's taking care of the kids. They just go off and do it, but they're the ones making more, which is so unfair because you want women to bear the burden of everything, but pay them as if they're not worthy and don't have as many degrees or don't have the intellect that they have, when they may be there with one little degree from one little school, but they make it seem like, they know more and they can get things done in a better way. So, that one, that happens a lot in Alabama, that one degree from that one school seems to go further than those minorities that can have 5 degrees, but they don't respect those. So.
That is so true. And I want to make sure you all heard something too that Dr. Figure said, and that's with regards to how women lead. When women lead, they don't just think about women, they think about everybody in the community, and that's why that change follows. Thank you so much for pointing that out. And I'm not going to talk about those few little degrees and mediocre. Next question. Let's talk about VP Kamala Harris. And this one, let's get to know how you guys feel about seeing a woman, a black woman, at the top of the ticket running for president. And is our country ready? We'll start with Congresswoman Crockett.
Listen, my affection for this woman runs so deep.
Is a woman ready to lead?
Oh, absolutely. We've been leading. That part is a. But I will tell you that for me, I've not been able to kind of take it in. I get asked this question often, like, what does it mean as a young black woman to see her? And I don't have time. Because honestly, when I'm out there fighting to try to get these votes and get people to listen to me and get them to understand that there's one person that has policies and one person talking about he got concepts of plans and really his real plan is Project 2025. Listen, I am too busy running to be able to take it in, and I don't want to get ahead of myself. I will tell you that I admire her because she's just a strong leader. I will tell you that I admire her because she inspired me way before I ever met her. The part of my DNC speech that I didn't get to tell, there were a number of parts, but nevertheless, one of the parts was that when I first saw her, I told her that I don't know if I would be standing before her but for her. Because the very first race that I ran, people don't like to talk about their losses, but sometimes you gotta lose to win, honey, so let me tell y'all, I keep it real. So my very first race, I was 28 years old, and I ran for district attorney. And it was because I hated what I saw in that East Texas county of what they were doing. And so I didn't know nothing about running for office. I had a whopping $7,000, and you couldn't tell me nothing. And I looked around the state of Texas, though. There was not a black woman DA, elected or appointed. I had to look all the way to California. She was what I saw. And while I did not win that race, I tell people all the time that you never really understand the purpose that God has on your life until it just starts to reveal itself. I never was supposed to win that race. I was supposed to learn how to run a race. And so I can tell you that I had an opportunity to go back to my elementary school in St. Louis just this week. And I went into the school and I try to teach elementary kids about what we do, and they do a real good job of learning. But I also asked them, what do you want to be when you grow up? And in the very first classroom that I walked into, the very first two hands that went up were two little black girls, and they both said president. The impact for generations to come, I can't even tell you how impactful it will be, because representation matters. And so it was important for me to go back to my elementary school because I never saw anyone that looked like me in that position. And while half those kids won't even know or understand exactly what we did, it is my hope that while the news was there and there were newspaper articles that they did, that someday they really understand that I went back because I wanted to pour into them and I wanted them to see themselves. There will be women around the world, children around the world. It'll change their lives.
All right. Anyone else want to address that? Dr. Figures, Attorney Reed, Congresswoman Sewell.
I think it is. It's a moment of joy. No one can ignore the joy that was felt across this country when Vice President Kamala Harris announced that she'd be taking that top of the ticket and running for president, right? That momentum, the calls, they were scared of it, fearful of it. And there are still, so I think I feel all of the joy and the momentum, and don't let anyone, the news is gonna tell you the honeymoon phase is over, the momentum is dying out. Ignore it all. It's part of that noise. And I also feel some fear. I think about her every day from just a point of like prayer and protection, because she is putting herself out there in a way in this country, knowing the hate that exists in pockets of this country. You know, if I have to like cringe every time I see a mailer come out on Shamari, I can only imagine what she is experiencing every single day on the internet, in rallies, just thinking about her protection. And I think that this moment is gonna be a true just test, a report card for this country, but I'm hopeful of where we will land, right? There are people who are not sleeping for a single moment for the next 9 days because they want nothing more for it to be impossible for her to be president of the United States. And there are people who are not sleeping for a single moment because they know that she can do it and that we can do it. And so we just need to keep pushing, I think, with that hope and hold on to that joy. And I am hopeful that this moment, we'll see her take it across the finish line.
Absolutely.
Just to add to that, I mean, it is so inspiring to be able to see her be up on the platform, at the top of the ticket, when there are so many other people who may have been just as competent as her before, who never had the chance to do it. So it's not just the fact that it's a black female that's there, it's the fact that we actually have somebody that we can say, that could be any one of us up here, that could be anyone in the audience, but she had to overcome so much and to be so strong to get there. And now it's like we see children looking up at us saying, I can be like you. I can be the president. I can be whatever I want to do, whatever I want to be. I can do that. And that's something that we didn't have growing up. We didn't have it. You know, we were encouraged to be teachers, doctors, lawyers, things like that. But we were never encouraged that, okay, you could actually hold a elected position, that you could actually be president. And right now it's in a space of, if I can see it, I can be it. And that goes way beyond the boxes that were limited to us when we were coming up. I'm so proud that I have a 26-year-old daughter who knows that she can do whatever she wants to do. And she does not necessarily have to have 5 degrees to do it, because she knows people, she is strong, she is phenomenal. And she knows that at 26, and she knew it at 20. Okay? And I can't say that everybody did know that. So we're all learning and, being inspired by what we can do at whatever age we are. That there's a space for us. If we want it, we can go after it, and we can be supported, and we can attain that. And so I think that, somebody said it earlier on that, women have to, support each other. That is huge right now. I don't hear people coming out saying, oh, well, I don't like her because of this, or she's an AKA, or she's, whatever. She is a black female that anybody can, wherever you want to be with it, you're supporting her because she is not just a black female. She is a phenomenal woman that can do the job, and regardless of whether somebody wants her to, defend what she has done or whatever, she knows and we know that she's more than capable of holding that seat.
But she has to be supported. She didn't just ascend to being the Democratic nominee. People like you and I gave money, made calls, made her the Democratic nominee. Because believe me, there were forces within our party that did not want her at the top of the ticket. Let's be very, very clear. This is not, a Democrat versus Republican thing. This is a societal thing. People are not ready for women to lead. And yet we do it quietly. We do it publicly. We're doing it every day. So I just want people to remember that her ascension was quick, but it was not inevitable. It was quick because black men and black women and white women and black and Republicans against Trump, all these people started raising money for her, calling, and then that's when I think the party realized, well, maybe we could, because let me tell you, the same forces that booted Biden out did not want her to be at the top of the ticket. That's all I'm gonna say. And so let's talk about the support that she needs. She needs that support. And she needs to know that we're behind her, that we're rooting for her. And let me tell you something, whether you vote for her or not, when she becomes president, she's our president. And we should all be supportive of our president. All right.
Thank you. And I think we all should sit in that moment, and while we support the VP and encourage everyone to support the VP, let's not forget to support our congressman, our future congressman in his district as well. We're gonna support the top, but we're gonna also support our Alabama guy. So we've talked about a lot of different things as it relates to women, but can you all speak to the role that women will play in this election? I think we know that women have always been critical in our elections. So Congresswoman Sewell and First Lady Reed, you know the legacy of black women leading across the city and Alabama. What are you seeing ahead of this election?
Well, I'm just, if you look at sort of the gaps in the polling, and polls are about as good as any piece of paper, but there is a huge, Kamala has a lot of women at her back. And I think that's because she's talking to issues that the other side refuse to acknowledge are important issues. And I think that women will play a big role in whoever wins because we happen to be in the majority of the voters. Did y'all know that? Okay, so women have awesome power to actually get her elected. And I think that her cabinet will be as diverse as this nation is. I believe that the coalition that she's massing together is a beautiful mosaic of America. But I once again have to tell you what I said about Shamari. We have to go to the polls and win this election, right? That every candidate is going to be out there. And everybody on any given day, it could go either way. And so I just don't want you all for us to be disappointed on November 6th. I want to wake up November 6th and be happy. First of all, I want to go to bed November 5th. joyous. And I just want to bring back that point. We need Shamari. I need Shamari. The president, when Kamala becomes president, she needs a house that will be behind her. Not because she's black, but because her agendas actually meet the needs of the people we represent. Her agenda. When she talks about an opportunity economy that works for everyone, she's talking about my district in the Black Belt from Birmingham all the way down to Wilcox County. That's what she's talking about. When she's talking about making sure that we actually educate our children so that they can reach their God-given potential, she's talking about all our children. So we need Shamari to come to be our representative from Alabama's 2nd Congressional District. And I believe every day he's out there fighting to do that. We just need to do our part and go and vote. Vote. We have to vote like our life depends upon it, because it does. And as I've been saying across this country, when we vote, we all win. You do know that, right? When we vote, we win.
Thank you. Congresswoman Crockett, you recently did an article with Forbes urging women to own their political power. And I did have an opportunity to read it, and it was awesome. So I encourage all of you all to take a moment to read that. But tell us your take on women owning their political power.
I'm just going to make this really quick. Here's the deal. Right now, I feel really good because women are outvoting men. For every kind of state that has voting going on. No shade to my men, y'all, no shade. But the numbers are clear that women are breaking for Harris more than men are breaking for Harris. And I can't really put my hand on what all the issues are that present impediments for men supporting Harris, but I will tell you that as I've looked around the country, as we dealt with the hurricanes that came through, and I've seen the lack of support for folk in the form of disinformation and misinformation. That should just be a disqualifier. When you have people that are dying, you need the mature person in the room at the helm. You need somebody that's not gonna sit there and say, well, that county didn't vote for me, so I'm not gonna send any money when they need it. That's not how the federal government works. We have to be supportive of everybody. And yes, I'm a Democrat, and yes, the Democrats overwhelmingly are the ones that put me into office. But when somebody calls my office, my staff is not instructed to find out, number one, if they're a voter, and number two, which way they voted. We need adults in the room. And I think that women are saying, there's only one adult on the ticket. That's just the bottom line. This isn't about electing your bro. This is about electing a pro, and let me tell you, she is the pro, she is qualified. Whether we want to talk about the economy, which right now, people that care about the economy are breaking for her. Now, normally Democrats, we get a bad rap for that, but they're breaking for her. She is trying to bring back the same tax plan that allowed President Clinton to actually balance our budget, which was the last time that the budget was balanced. We know that the last guy brought in $8 trillion in one 4-year term because he wanted to give tax breaks to his friends. Listen, I think that women are clear-eyed. I think that they are, if she wasn't qualified, I don't think she would have support from women or otherwise. I think they would be like, never mind. But she has support of women because I think that women are like, forget this. This is bigger than gender. I mean, like, I'm sure some of us are super happy that it is a woman, but at the end of the day, if she couldn't get the job done, if he somehow was better, if he somehow was going to tell us how he is going to help to lift people out of poverty, if he was going to tell us, oh, you're going to complain about the border even though you killed the border bill, so what is your plan and you don't have one? Oh, you want to roll back the Affordable Care Act and we've got states like Alabama and Texas, which Texas leads in uninsured in the country with over 5 million uninsured people. If you want to sit there and say we want to get rid of NOAA, so as we are dealing with climate change, we will not have communities that can at least prepare to try to save their lives. Listen, everything is on the ballot, and women are clear about the only one that cares. And the men that are here, y'all are clear too. I just got to give y'all some love. And Shamari is obviously clear because he is coming to D.C. with me.
And his wife is a bad sister.
Yes, she is.
And if he could marry an awesome, intelligent, beautiful sister, you also, that's an added plus. So you don't just get Shamari, you also get Kalisha.
Absolutely. Attorney Reed, what are you seeing in Montgomery and the surrounding area?
Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of energy around Election Day, okay? People are very engaged, women, men, even the teens that are around here, our college students. When we were doing voter registration drives, there was so much participation from people in Montgomery because they want to see, like you said, they want to see the person who has the most qualifications win this seat. It's not necessarily about a male-female situation. It's who you are looking at on this ballot. And that, I've had women and men tell me that they are going to take off on election day. They're taking off the day before. They're making sure that they have a certain amount of people that they are calling to make sure that they have rides to get to the poll. I have people that have been saying, they don't want to do absentee voting because they want to make sure that their ticket goes through the slot. And I'm one of those people. But the amount of people that have done absentee ballots is outstanding. It's just, we have to make sure that our votes count. And if you don't want to go on election day because you're fearful of a crowd, that you did have an opportunity to do that. But prior to that, when you're talking about voter registration drives that were being done in Alabama, people were coming out in droves to make sure that they were checking their registration tickets, and that they knew exactly where they were supposed to go. And we have a lot of attorneys in Montgomery who are, like I said, taking off so that they can man polls to make sure that there's not a lot of drama going on at the polling sites. That's something that I do all the time. But now it's like, okay, people are asking me, okay, so what do we need to do? Who do we need to talk to? How do I get involved? That is so inspiring. And when you see people like that getting involved, it does trickle down to your college students. When we did a voter registration drive at Alabama State University, there were only probably about 5 people that weren't already registered. It was during homecoming. They were already registered, but they were trying to come up and check their status and make sure that they had everything they needed, that they knew where they were going, and we provided that information for them. So it's so important for people to understand that it's not just about what your issues are, it's about who is going to be representing us for the next 4 years, and how can we help to make sure that anybody that wants to make sure their vote counts, their vote counts. And I do believe that we are going to all rally, and everybody is going to be going to bed November 5th with a smile because we did the work. And we got people out there.
We're going to claim that. Dr. Figures, what are you saying with the work that you do with national women's groups, as well as what you're saying in District 2?
I'm seeing the excitement. I'm seeing unprecedented excitement because people can see and touch and feel. This is an HBCU grad. This is a soror to so many. This is someone that they can resonate with and someone that they can trust to take our country forward. So that excitement is certainly there. But when I think about women's political power, I take it back to literally to home, to where my background and where I come from, right? I am the very proud daughter of Haitian immigrants. And so when we talk about creating fear and hate around any group for political gain, I feel that in a very personal way, right? Because I'm the daughter of a man who immigrated to this country decades ago, learned how to speak English watching Sesame Street, became an engineer, raised 4 daughters, only for decades later, y'all's colleague from the great state of Louisiana, and a presidential candidate talking about people from his country eating pets on national TV. So I feel that fostering of hate. But I'm from a Haitian family who grew up in the Catholic Church, I have people who are socially conservative in my family, who it is painful to talk about some issues. And when I think about women's political power, I think about me and my 3 sisters and my many cousins sitting around a table at Thanksgiving or on the holidays, and then the tatis, the aunties come around, and we break that generational conversation talking about some of those issues. We talk about how LGBTQ rights are tied to civil rights and what it means to other people in society. We talk about abortion and reproductive rights and what that means to stand up for a movement that is protecting rights of women, right? We talk about all of those issues, and then the uncles, the Haitian men, come around as well, and they start engaging in the conversation, and then they get on their WhatsApp groups or in their email chains, and they talk to their peers in Boston and in Florida and in swing states. That is what women's political power is, because it's that same point around the role women play and the trust that they have and how they shoulder the burden of caregiving. They also are the trusted source in so many families. They are the mothers, they are the aunts, they are the best friends. So when you have those conversations, when women have those conversations in their homes, it matters for what their people, their communities, their children, their grandchildren, their parents do at the ballot box. And I think that a lot of conversations have been happening across this country. They've certainly been happening in my family, where people are changing hearts and changing minds and really representing what is at stake in this election.
Amazing. Y'all hear that? You got to have the conversations. You got to have the conversations. So unfortunately, we are coming to a close, and I'm going to let the Congresswomen close us out with closing remarks, and then we'll let Congressman Shamori Figures, I'm going to speak it. I'm in the house. I'm going to speak it. Come and bring, and I see Mayor Reed has joined us. So if Mayor Reed, I'm going to take a point of personal privilege, and if Mayor Reed also wants to bring some words, hopefully nobody will kill me for allowing that too. Ladies, take us home.
You know, this is a great segue because you ended with a call to action. Listen, if you're sitting here, I'm not worried about you, to be perfectly honest. I am not worried. Y'all know that you are registered. You know what your job is. You have already done it or you plan to do it. I am not worried about you. So this wasn't an opportunity to have a conversation with the choir. This was an opportunity to educate the choir, because I need the choir to go out and do the evangelism that we need to see in these streets. It is on you. Because people don't want to listen to politicians because they feel like some of them are liars and, well, some aren't. People don't want to listen to politicians because they feel like some of them are criminals and, well, some of them aren't. I get it. But your neighbor, your coworker, your sorority sister, your uncle, your cousin, your father, your mother, your child, they trust you. They're not here with you necessarily today. So you need to be the ones to tell them why this election matters, even in the state of Alabama, why it matters, especially if you want a President Kamala Harris and you want her to be successful. You are the ones that I am entrusting to do that. And the final thing that I'll say is that I have a soror in the State House by the name of Tony Rose. And she always says to people that you may not do politics, but politics will do you.
All right.
What she's trying to say is that everything in your life, somehow a politician impacts it. And as you talk to people that say they don't do politics, let them know that politics will do them. Thank you so much, y'all.
Thank you.
Let's give it up for my colleague, Jasmine Crockett, and thank her for coming to Montgomery, Alabama today. We see ourselves in you, Jasmine, and I think that is the spark that you've really gotten for, and I'm so proud of you. I hope you know that. Love you. So I'm just gonna say again that it's time for us to turn the page, guys. I need the courage of my Republican colleagues and friends. I never thought I'd say this, but I'd like the old Republican Party back again, please. Y'all may have to lose this election in order for us to because if you elect this man again, all the hatred will just continue to percolate. Oh my God, I'm just saying, we've got to put politics aside and just talk about what's really at stake are the people. And we're the people. We're the people. And I mean, there's so many pages that need to be turned. We're talking about a new crop of leaders, of which we have the opportunity to add Shamari Figures to that. We're talking about an opportunity to lay to rest the politics of hate and the division that is sowed by Trump. And that may mean that you have to go out of your comfort zone and have the real conversation about the fact that we need to vote vote for Kamala because she is the only adult on the ballot. I mean, we have to have tough conversations, and I know that we don't want to have those tough conversations, but they're important. And I want to say in closing that Alabama's delegation needs Shamari. We all win when we have competent people who are willing to weigh the issues and to do the right thing. He's not going to blindly follow me or blindly follow Hakeem or blindly follow Kamala. He is a smart, intelligent person from this district who has seen Washington, been in Washington. Who better to sit at tables, decision-making tables, to talk about the needs of the 2nd Congressional District than someone who's from the 2nd Congressional District? All right, so I'm asking you, I'm actually begging you, to please send Shamari Figures to Washington. He is so needed. And our delegation only thrives when we have people in our delegation willing to do the hard work of representing all of Alabama, not just some of Alabama. I'm gonna stand up for this part, because I've been there by myself for 14 years. And we do not need to go back, we need to go forward. And we need to go forward with Shamari Figures. Please, please elect Shamari Figures as the next congressman. And when he gets into office, support him. Support him. People think that this is a majority-minority district. It is not. It is not. And we in Alabama have something called racial polarization in voting. It's alive and well. So when my friends from other states say, well, Terry's 47%, he should be able, who is he coalescing with? Our Hispanic population is 0.2. And I'm sorry, labor, rank and file labor, they're now supporting Trump. Okay, so let's not even ask why. Let's just deal with the facts. In Alabama, you have to have a photo ID when you go to the polls. Talking about these, you all are the evangelists. Let's get out there and make sure people have a voting plan. They know where their precinct is. They know whether or not their name has been purged from the rolls or not. And they know the law. So until we get a majority in the State House to change the law in Alabama requires a photo ID. And there's only 9 forms that actually fit that bill. And so we have to educate ourselves and be prepared to vote. And I also want you to know that you can go vote tomorrow in the Montgomery courthouse at the Board of Registrars. There's something, people have been voting, they can. I mean, you have to have an excuse, but last time I checked, does anybody know they'll be breathing on November 5th? Does anybody know whether they're gonna be well enough to get out of, hello? I've already voted. You can already vote. Let's use the law to our advantage, as long as we can keep that law. All right, and I'm gonna end again, like I started, by saying that when we vote, we all win. So please, If any district or any state understands the power of the vote, it's Alabama. It's Alabama. And I want that same law that gave us the 2nd congressional district in Alabama to get us a district in Louisiana, in South Carolina. Do I need to go on and on and on? Because if it's about fairness, African Americans make up 33% of Mississippi. South Carolina, 31%, and all of them only have 1 seat where African Americans can vote for a candidate of their choosing. That ain't fair, y'all. This is our seat, our opportunity. Let's win it. We love Shamari.
Thank you. Thank you. Awesome job, ladies.
Thank you. Give it up for our panel, ladies and gentlemen. This, I don't know whether y'all realize it, but I mean, we've had a treat here. Just on this stage today, we have 4 lawyers, at least 6 Ivy League degrees, 2 members of Congress, and me. So, but thank you all. Thank you all. I want to give a very special thank you to my wife. And before anybody, before anybody asks, it is. I started over there in research. It is too late to switch me out with her on the ballot. But it's but you can see that I certainly married up. I certainly married up, for real. I'm also going on month 12 now of unemployment. So she's been holding it down for us. So you talk about women leading. Yeah, yeah. She's been leading my life. But by show of hands, how many people have already voted? Just out of curiosity. Wow. That's good to see that we're taking advantage of the current state of the law, and more people need to know that you can go vote. Alabama still doesn't technically have early voting. We're going to try to work on that when we pass the John Robert Lewis Voting Rights Act. But you can't go vote. You have to fill out one of the allowable reasons here in the state. And you can't vote early. But listen, I just want to speak to you a quick second, and I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Reed to close us out. And thank you for coming. The county of Montgomery, the city of Montgomery, I'm going to sum it up in a few numbers for how important it is to what happens here. When the court reviewed this district, when they drew this lines, they looked at past elections to see how it would turn out. And it said that the African-American candidate of their choice would have won 15 of the previous 17 elections. Well, 16 of the previous 17, right? 15 of the previous 17. The one that we would have lost is just the last election that we had across this district, and that was our current gubernatorial race. Our current governor would have won what is now this district. So it feels good to be here. We're motivated, we're excited, we're unified, but the realities of it is that recent history has shown us that we can lose in this district. But the difference between that and you see that President Biden and Doug Jones carried this district by about 12 and 13 points respectively, the difference boiled down to Montgomery County. Biden beat Trump by about 32,000 votes in Montgomery County in 2020. And he carried this district by about 12 points. Kay Ivey only lost Montgomery County by 9,000 votes, and she carried this district by 2.5 points. So that's not to say that any other county is not important, but when you crunch the numbers, we know that the pathway to how we perform in a general election runs right through Montgomery County. And honestly, given how we got here, that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be, for Montgomery to again lead the way in getting us across the hump in a crucial voting rights district. So let's go do this November the 5th, because as we've been reminded, when we vote, we win. When we vote, we win. All right, well, let's go do it. Well, I want to welcome our mayor here in Montgomery, Stephen Reed, and I will let him close us out. One last thing I'll say is when you get a moment, I want everybody here, we've been talking about the historical nature of Kamala Harris winning. And here in America, I think in general, we lose sight of how we felt very soon. But when you get a chance, I want you to go on YouTube and I want you to pull up the moment in 2008 that it was announced that Barack Obama won president. And relive that moment, relive where you were. I know some of you were probably sitting right in here, right? Relive that moment. Go back in your minds. Go back to that day. Go back to that night. Go back to that sense of pride you had when you woke up the next morning, when you walked to work with a little bit of a different, you know. Like, go back and watch those videos, those reaction videos, when you saw people who just couldn't speak, they were in tears. When you saw people at the floor of altars across the country because they could not believe it. When you saw people here in Montgomery who was speechless because they know what Montgomery had been through for Barack Obama to get to where he got that night. That's my challenge to all of you, because it's gonna feel just like that on November the 5th. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you, brother. Well, listen, I'm just glad y'all are still here, because I just came from Souls to the Polls in Atlanta, Georgia, at Trinity AME Church with the Vice President's sister, Maya Harris, and her team, and I just knew I was not gonna get here in time. I hit construction in Macon County and an accident in Tallahassee. I said, there's no way. So then I get here, and I thought this was over in the annex. I said, I knew I'd missed something. Nobody was in the annex, so I just sat there for a little while over here. And I said, but the lights are off already? So let me just kind of think, but I still see some cars. So anyway, I'm glad I put my head out and y'all are still here. So now y'all get to hear the speech I wrote for today over at Trinity. Before they told me that the presiding elder was going to be there. I said, okay, let me scratch one page. They said the bishop was going to be there. Let me scratch another page. And they said, oh, by the way, the second gentleman couldn't make it, so they're sending the Vice President's sister, Maya Harris. I said, let me scratch the whole thing. But that's what happened, so you understand your role. But no, I want to thank Congresswoman Terry Sewell for being a tremendous partner for us over these last several years. I want to thank Congresswoman Crockett for being here. We've had the chance to share the table. More importantly, I've had a chance to listen to her story about activism and public service over this campaign cycle. We share some good friends and mutual acquaintances in Dallas, and a great friend in St. Louis, and Mayor Tashara Jones. And certainly I want to thank all of the ladies at the other end of the table, because Shamari can't follow instructions, because I told him, Shamari, this is what you do now. This is who you think, and this is what order you think I'm in. And here we go. No, I'm just joking. He did that on his own. Got to make sure you thank your wife. So I thank Tamika Reed as well. I thank Dr. Figures as well. So thank you all for being here. Listen, I'll be quick. To Pastor Ellis, thank you for everything. Pastor Ellison, thank you for everything that you've done. Pilgrim Rest, everybody here, Deacon Buckner, thank you. Pastor Ellis has just been a great friend. Pilgrim Rest has been a great, great supporter. Everything that we have asked them to do over our administration. And you don't get to where we are as a city and as a community without the Black church. And that is one thing that I wanted to share here with you. Before we had any of us in office and any of the accolades, we had the church, and in particular the AME church. And we understand that history. We understand the activism of the Baptist church and the leadership, certainly in Montgomery and Selma, Tuskegee, and so many other parts of the district. So it is great just to have the willingness and the openness to host, not endorse, for those who are watching virtually and other things, just to host this type of event, because it's important. It's important that we have these spaces, and we don't always have country clubs that we can go to. But I do want to make sure that, y'all know I had to get that in there. I do want to make sure that I say two things, and this is important because we're 9 days out. We understand what's at stake. I just don't know that all of us are acting like it. So my charge to you is very simple without giving you all the other parts of my remarks from earlier today in Atlanta, is let's act like it. It's 9 days out, and we have to have a level of urgency about this race. There is too much at stake that Terry Sewell helped us do as mayors that I could talk to you for the next hour about. And I'm not just talking about as mayor of Montgomery, I'm telling you this from the president of the African American Mayors Association, of which we represent over 500 black mayors and 10 of the 20 largest cities in this country being headed up by black mayors. The checks people are talking about, the things they're giving somebody else credit for, came through Congress and came through President Biden and Vice President Harris. These are things that directly, I don't mean in theory, directly help churches, help community organizations, help small businesses and individuals, and help in every way that is manageable around health and wealth. And I want to make sure that we understand those things don't just happen. You have to have someone who's willing to give you an audience. And I've been fortunate to have a number of audiences with the Vice President, and she has listened. She has asked us questions. She has given us time to talk and just to say, hey, tell me what people in your district are hearing. Tell me where the disconnect is. And that didn't happen in the previous 4 years. And I know that because I heard it from Republican mayors. I heard it from Democratic mayors who served between 2016 and 2020. So we don't want to go back to that because we understand what's at stake for the city. But all of us, not just here, but those who are watching this virtually, or those who may get this via TikTok or may get this via some other form of social media, have to understand that all of us have a level and a platform and a circle of influence. Use that circle, use that platform. It's not just those of us with titles in elected office. Be an influencer for the next 9 days. Just the same way you post a picture of your grandkids or your great-grandkids or yourself when you're looking real good coming to church, post these pictures about this election. Because I will tell you this piece of data and then I'm done. I reached out to a well-known, well-respected pollster in Democratic politics after a poll came out in the Wall Street Journal that showed Trump having momentum. And I asked him the question. I said, is this true? He said, yes, it is. He said, yes, it is. It's very true. And he said, we have to change the math to win. And so we got to change the math to win. So I said, what does it come down to? He said, Mayor, it comes down to three things: young people, women, and black voters. Turnout. Young people, women, and black voters. So I say this because we have to have the urgency to reach those groups. We have to have an urgency to challenge those folks who, as Congresswoman Sewell just said, may not have voted for a Democrat before, but they know the difference between right and wrong. They may not be getting the information that we get, and I watch Fox News for a reason. I like to lurk. I like to go on conservative websites. I want to know what they're talking about, too, the same way they do in our stuff. So they may not be getting it, but they know what's at stake. So we just can't preach to the choir and preach the way we know we're in safe spaces. We got to challenge some of our friends, some of our colleagues about why they're deciding to make this decision, why they believe a fascist should be president. And we've got to really have those stark conversations over the next 9 days. I mean this. Because what I did when I got that was I shared it with all the mayors that I'm in chat groups with. And I said, y'all all know somebody famous. You have an athlete, for those of you who have NFL teams and NBA teams. I said, y'all need to share this message. I said, we're not going to leave anything undone between now and November 5th. I said, so you know radio hosts, you know actors, entertainers, musicians, pastors, everybody that you know and can touch, then y'all need to tell them what's at stake. And it's these three groups: young people who do not get any of their news from network TV. I mentioned TikTok for a reason, because I was floored. Y'all know this already. How much information people under the age of 35 get from TikTok. I was floored by it. They don't know what the 10 o'clock news is. Now we understand why our sons don't know what's on the 10 o'clock news right here in Montgomery, whether I was on it or not. They don't know. So we have to make sure that if you're not on TikTok, your grandkid is. And if you didn't know that, or your kid is, if you don't know it, trust me, they are. All right? So now that you know they are, then make sure they're posting something about this election, because that's how we reach young people. As for women, we have to make sure we're talking about reproductive rights and the freedom to choose. And we have to talk about how this came about and what is at stake and what really, really matters. So we have to make sure we leverage that and we multiply that. And then with black voters, it's not just enough for us to say, I voted. My question is, how many other people did you get to vote? Okay? So we have to multiply this and be a force multiplier ourselves in each and every way that we can. If we do those three things over the next 9 days, then not only will we go to bed peacefully, we'll wake up with joy in the morning. And we'll wake up with joy in the morning because we know we would have done everything that we could do, everything that we're supposed to do, and everything that we've been called to do. You can't be in Montgomery, Alabama, and just talk about profiting off the movement and you don't practice it. There's some things we have an inordinate amount of responsibility to do. And when you talk about the Selma and Montgomery voting rights march, and the fact that we're coming up on the 60th anniversary next year, 70th anniversary of the bus boycott, I want a president that comes here that truly understands that and represents that next year. So we know the three groups, we know who we've got to reach, and we know what's at stake. And we got 9 days to do it. Each and every one of you in here has some profile or some platform equal or greater than that of any elected official up here. They said the congressman was saying some may think that we're crooks, some may think that we don't tell the truth and other things, and she may be right about some of that for some of those other folks. But you all are trusted. You all are nanas. You all are grandpa, your uncle, your deacon, your cousin. You're just Willie. People respect and trust you more than you know. And over the next 9 days, I cannot tell you how many texts and emails I have that's telling me how close this is in the battleground states. It is literally going to come down precinct by precinct, county by county, state by state. It is that. So we need not take anything for granted, and we need not be comfortable in our position because we are here with a great crowd and with a great congresswoman who came from across the country. I don't know where, because she's been on so many planes, she probably didn't even know where she was a few hours ago. But we're glad she's here not only to help the president and to help us elect another Democrat to our congressional ranks here in Montgomery, here in Alabama, by the name of Shamari Figures, but what it would mean for this nation today, and most importantly, what it would mean for the nation tomorrow. Let's get out, let's go work, let's go vote, let's go win. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Quickly, Reverend Ellis, I don't know where he went, but thank you. Thank you to Pilgrim Rest. Thank you, Phyllis Harvey Hall, who I know many of you know. She's helped us coordinate this today. But I want to also thank the panelists just again. Mrs. Reed, Kalisha, Congresswoman Crockett, Congresswoman Sewell. Another reason it's important that we make Hakeem Jeffries speaker is because our very own Congresswoman Terry Sewell will elevate to a position of seniority that can benefit this state in a significant way. She will become a chairwoman of a Ways and Means subcommittee. And Congresswoman Crockett, look, thank you. I know you did not have to be here. People have said it, that this is not a battleground state. It's not. And you are working to do God's work with the Kamala Harris campaign. So coming to Alabama, this is the type of opportunity and exposure we don't get here. So thank you. We owe you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. All right, let's go. I'll turn it over to you.
I think we need to also acknowledge Councilwoman Riley. She's still here? She left. Okay, well, you all be sure and let her know we appreciate her for coming out. And then thank you again to our panelists. You all have heard what it is you're supposed to do. We've got 9 days to get it done. Thank you.